ABC News investigative reporter Olivia Ruben. She has been following the trial day in and day out, a long day today. So with regard to the prosecution of Steinglass's closing arguments, about 5 hours worth, what do you think some of the highlights were?
Well, it was essentially a mini trial. He went through with the jurors, once again, all of their biggest pieces of evidence. He began with David Pecker. He called David Pecker's testimony damning in itself, saying that that alone showed there was a conspiracy, talking about that infamous meeting at Trump Tower where they hatched a catch and kill plan that led to the 3 stories that were ultimately killed. He talked about other witnesses, Michael Cohen, acknowledging Michael Cohen's issues, giving the defense that point there, because Michael Cohen does have issues. He's admitted to lying, but saying his testimony was so clear and so convincing that it relied on documents. They saw the text messages of Michael Cohen once again, the phone calls, the phone records to Donald Trump, to those around him, to working with they said 10 people involved in this scheme. And then, of course, bringing it to the election, saying that this was all about the election and that it is irrefutable as Donald Trump tried to distance himself from this plot and from the 34 records at issue here, and essentially saying that Donald Trump was the shadow over all of what was conducted here. So again, I know I said it was like a mini trial, but it really was trying to remind the jurors of everything that they heard, because if Todd Blanche's job was to poke holes in everything that the prosecutor said, because remember, it's prosecutors have the burden here, the burden of proof. So Todd Blanche is poking the holes everywhere he can for 3 hours, 10 reasons, he said, to find a reasonable doubt to make Trump not guilty. So it was Josh Steinglass's job to get back up there and patch up every single one of those holes and tie it all in a bow for the jury before they go in tomorrow.
What about Steinglass's so-called smoking gun documents? You think that was enough to sway jurors?
Well, it was certainly sort of one of the bombshell pieces of evidence here. That refers to the handwritten notes that Weisselberg and Michael Cohen came up with as they are hatching out how Michael Cohen is going to be repaid all of this money. Remember, he has paid $420,000. And what prosecutors said, what just Steinglass brought that up to say today, was it undercut one of Todd Blanche's arguments that Donald Trump was paying for legal fees in 2017. He wasn't making repayments for the hush money, and Steinglass was sort of incredulous at that statement. He said, I can't believe that they're standing here making the argument that these weren't repayments. You saw his own financial chief's handwritten notes showing that they were repayments, that it was for tech services, for Stormy Daniels, for the bonus, grossed up. That's how they got this $420,000. So if anything, it could have shown that one of Todd Blanche's main arguments was not true if jurors believe the handwritten notes that they're seeing there from 2017.
And with regard to our polls, what does it say? Is this verdict either way likely to move the needle for Trump supporters?
Well, I think that is the question, and no one really knows until this verdict comes down. I think all we have to go off is the indictments. I remember we were sitting here a little over a year ago talking about if the indictments were going to hurt him, as was everyone. And many people thought that they would, and ultimately they did not. Donald Trump was indicted 4 times over, only grew stronger in the polls, and now is the presumptive Republican nominee. So the question does become, what will a conviction do? Our most recent poll certainly showed that it could have some sway with his own supporters. About 80% said that they would still support him, but 4% said they would not. And that's significant for, hardcore Trump supporters. But the question is, months from now in September and October, when every American is plugged into the 2024 election, how heavily is this going to be weighing on their minds? And especially if Donald Trump gets any sort of acquittal, a hung jury, anything that is not a conviction, you can bet that you are going to hear that out of his mouth day in and day out, trying to tell the American people that this is what they tried to do to me, but I prevailed, and now we're going to win the White House.
So many jurors in the court of public opinion.
Exactly.
Olivia, just outstanding reporting from the beginning. Thank you so much.